Inside the Triangle, the Decker Truckline Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Triangle. I am your host, Darin Ladley, and today I have a guest. It is the VP of Reefer Operations in Total for Decker Truckline, Steve Hatten, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Introduce yourself, kind of what's your role here at Decker? What do you do?
Sure. Well, I've been with Decker for going on 4 years in July, about 18 years in the trucking industry. So was with a smaller carrier prior to coming to Decker for about 14 years. My current role is the VP of Operations for our reefer van fleet. That pretty much consists of just making sure that the drivers are staying busy, that we've got the freight to keep them rolling, getting them home, getting them paid, use the old Dan Baker quote there. But that's really the biggest nuts and bolts of it, is just making sure that we're servicing our customers, both internal and external, keeping the drivers happy, keeping our customers happy, and hopefully making money for Decker.
Okay. And you're out of the Missoula terminal.
Correct.
Okay, so where the men are men and the sheep are nervous. Anyway, what, isn't that how that saying goes? You're real life Yellowstone, is that what it is?
Well, let's say there's a lot that's exaggerated with that show, put it that way.
What, you don't have Beth and Teeter and all them? There was no rips out there?
There's some hard folks out there, but it's not as hardcore as they make it sound.
Oh, come on. You can't tell me Jason doesn't think he's ripped.
No, Jason Swarling, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So you said you were with a smaller company. Was it a reefer company that you're with?
Yeah, it was Watkins Shepherd.
Okay,
so they were about.
That's a small company.
Well, they had about 22 terminals across the country, but fleet size, it was mainly dry van operation. We did have some reefer freight that we integrated in there, and we had a flatbed operation as well, but about 650 trucks. So in the grand scheme of things, similar size to Decker, but really not like a Crete or a Sierra England or anything like that. But yeah, we were there basically hauling LTL freight and other household commodities, that kind of thing, across the greater 48.
So what is the biggest transition that you've done from the dry van LTL to reefer?
The biggest transition for me really is just the getting used to the requirements that come from the reefer side of things, because everything is much more time sensitive, right? Anything that we're hauling is either dead or dying. Whereas on the dry van side of things, it's very much a slower pace, less stress. I wouldn't say that requirements or the priority that's put on the freight is any less significant, but you get a delay in transit, you have a breakdown, whatever, it's pretty easy usually to reschedule those. But with the reefer side of things, you have any delays whatsoever. I mean, you're past expiration date, you're looking at cargo claims, so it's just that adjustment, changing your mindset a little bit more as to this is priority, it has to move now, we need to get on top of it.
USDA can be it really can be.
100%. And again, the customers, I mean, they have, they've got guidelines that they have to stand by, and we're trying to do our best to work around the human element and that comes with this job. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can't control, and it's tough to work through that sometimes, but we do our best. So
what made you get into the trucking industry?
That's a great question.
Katie thought of it, not me.
I will be fully honest. This was not my career path. This was not my intention at any point. My grandfather drove truck briefly. My father drove truck. Rode with him when I was a kid. So exposed to the lifestyle, kind of grew up in it. He worked in operations as well as a director of operations for a couple different terminals, worked for Crete and those kind of things. Me, I started out with the idea that I was going to be a lawyer.
This ain't a lawyer.
This is far from the original path that I had thought, right? So I went to high school, graduated high school by 15. Went to college.
At 15, you graduated high school?
Graduated high school at 15.
We got one of these Sheldon Cooper dudes here. All right.
No, not at all. But, I mean, that's where this is, I guess, how it all started. Is I started out really young, really fast, and just wanted to get a jump on things. Went to college at 16. Had my bachelor's degree by 18, my master's degree by 19, and then I was admitted to law school. So I moved out to Oklahoma, was admitted to law school there, and I did about a year of that. And doing all of that so quickly, so fast, just burned myself out. I just had no interest for anything academic related at that point. So took a step back, said, okay, what the hell am I going to do with my life now, right? moved back to Montana. I taught school for about a year at 1920 at a local high school.
You were barely older than the students.
I was barely older than the students.
They had to have just eaten you up and spit you out.
It was either one of two things. It was either they just absolutely hated me because I was barely old enough to tell them anything, or they absolutely loved me because they saw me as like one of their peers. So that was kind of interesting, navigating that dynamic. But it was like high school all the way down to kindergarten. So I was jumping in between. We had. And fortunately, I had an inside track. I had somebody I knew that worked at the school and would set me up for, when teachers were on sabbatical or those kind of things. So I'd get a 6-week stint here and an 8-week stint there, so I get to know the classes and kind of jump around the grades and see if that was something I wanted to do. I enjoyed it. I liked working with the kids, but it was not a career path for me. So I was like, all right, let's scrap that. Let's go back to the drawing board. Was working for a insurance company and doing supplemental insurance.
Well, you picked all the exciting fields, didn't you?
Yeah. So I went from one extreme to the other. I was like, well, that was definitely a let's just make some money kind of thing. Was doing that, going door to door, and traveling sucks to that extent, especially when you're on the road all the time. So I did that for a little bit, and a job came available. My fiance at the time was like, we need to get you off the road. I want you home. Don't want you being gone all that time. So. Job came available at Walking Shepherd. I called my dad up. I said, hey, is this really, as tough as it can be? I've heard the stories and, some folks that just tears them up and spits them out kind of thing. Is this industry that tough? And my dad had nothing but good things to say about it. He said, it's a respectable career. It's a path that he really enjoyed. Obviously, I saw, again, my grandfather do it. I saw him doing it as a kid. A lot of good people in it, and if it's something that you really dedicate yourself to, that you can make a good career out of. So I applied, and I was persistent. I wasn't initially called for the first interview, and then they brought me in, and then it was a week later, and then a week later, and then a week later. I'm like, come on, guys, I want to get off the road. I need this job. Just give me a chance to prove myself. And they did, and really the rest is history. So I started when I was about 20 years old doing that, and started in dispatch.
Dispatch,
yep,
okay.
Yep, I was a dispatcher for 2 years, something like that, transitioned to customer service, and then you name it, between here to there. Worked in recruiting for a bit, worked in sales for a bit, logistics, dabbled in some safety for a bit, moved out to North Carolina for a couple of years to help them start an upstart operation out there. So been around, did a little bit of everything. So
what's your day-to-day? What do you do every day when you come in the office, from the time you get there until you go home? Well, and I know with that job and any of them is your time of the day can be, do we have this going on or whatever. It could be 8, 9 o'clock at night or whatever. But what's your day-to-day life like?
Day-to-day life is blink and you'll miss it. That's probably the best way to put it. Day-to-day, really, from the moment we walk in the door, is just making sure that our operations is moving as smoothly as possible. We have morning meetings with our fleet management team to make sure our drivers are getting what they need, that we're getting them positioned to get them home when they need to be. We're doing daily meetings to make sure that our freight is on time and that we're tracking where we need to be, make sure that there's no major cargo claims, major accidents, anything to that effect that's impacting our network. And right now we're working on some pretty big projects behind the scenes that are supposed to help optimize our network and help some of our efficiencies. So we're having a lot of meetings tied to that and working through some of those processes. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that we're doing daily is just really trying to make sure that our ducks are in a row, that our fleet managers are doing what they're supposed to, that our drivers are getting what they need to be successful, and again, just moving the freight and keeping our customers happy.
So since you're in Missoula and you have, how many dispatchers do you have in Missoula? 5?
No, Missoula, I think we're up to 9 dispatchers there.
And we've got how many dispatchers here in Fort Dodge?
We got 5 here in Dodge.
Okay. So how do you work the cross-terminal dispatchers?
It works really well, and I think technology has helped quite a bit with that. We've been able to blend that and almost make it feel like it's one office. With our Microsoft Teams applications and whatnot, we're able to jump onto those calls pretty quickly. We can do video shares, get everybody on the line every single day. And I think the biggest thing is just the communication element. It doesn't leave people feeling like they're out on an island or that they don't have a resource to help turn to. So that's one big thing that I push is just constant communication. As long as we're communicating through it, we typically can solve any problem that's out there. It's when we start to silo up and try to keep your head down and just, John Wayne your way through it and power through it. And you're typically going to trip over your own 2 feet and cause a problem. So I've found that in almost anything that you do is with open communication, you can probably solve most issues.
So let's move on to freight.
Let's move on.
All right. So last year, the year before, it was a boom. I mean, you could pick any number of where you wanted to go and what they wanted to pay, and they were doing it. Mm-hmm. Ain't that way anymore, is it? And I know ain't a word, but ain't is in my dictionary. Okay. So what is going on?
Well, I think the chickens have come home to roost a little bit. Is probably,
we all know it was going to happen. How people didn't know this was going to happen? I mean,
well, and if you've been in the industry long enough, right? Everything is cyclical, and we see this happen all the time. It'll swing real hard from the left to the right, and then back and forth. Right now, we're swinging hard the other way. So we had a really good stretch there for, again, 18 months, almost 24 months. Coming out of COVID or in the midst of COVID, rates were just through the roof. We had the ability to set our own terms. We could negotiate and hit price increases, rate increases with our customers, and they were just happy to take it. I mean, really, you threw the rate out there, told them what you needed to haul it. They were just ecstatic to have a truck and capacity, right? Now, as the market shifted and it's swinging back the other way, the customers are starting to slowly, not very slowly, they're aggressively clawing back a lot of those price increases and rate increases. And so we rode the gravy train a little bit for about 2 years and was able to get it while the getting was good. And now it's a little bit of, okay, we need to play the game and give a little bit of that back in order to continue to source capacity. Part of the problem we're running into now from a market standpoint is because things were so good during that 18-month, 24-month period, prices were through the roof, guys can set their own terms. You saw a huge influx of folks flooding into the market that wanted to get a little piece of that pie. So you had more lease purchase guys joining into the program, more guys going out and buying their own trucks, becoming owner-operators.
Oh, it's you can't throw a stick out on the highway without hitting 20 self-independent owner-operators out there.
Yep, and you had guys that, had mortgaged the house, took out a second mortgage on the house, went out and bought a couple pieces of equipment, running for themselves and a couple people underneath them. So the market's saturated. It's just overly saturated right now. And we're really not seeing anything that's outside the norm from a freight standpoint. We're seeing probably a little bit of a return to normality. Right now, seasonality is taking an effect. We didn't see that seasonality 18 months ago, 24 months ago.
And that is, and I'm going to say, because, that was hard. I've been in this business for 39 years, and you always had your after Christmas drop off until about March. End of March, somewhere in there, it would pick back up. It's just the way things went. But guys you give them 2 years of not doing that, and then they forget about what used to be. And now we're just kind of working our way back to regular trucking.
That's exactly it. And you got guys that came into this industry, and keep in mind that had no experience to that, right? So that's the new normal for them. So January through March, freight was great. So now they're seeing this thing. What the heck's going on? This is a little bit of a shock. We didn't experience this at all. So you got guys that started in this thing less than 2 years ago that what they were experiencing is their normal. Whereas for the rest of it that's been around for a while, this is kind of a little bit of a return to the normal. The last 2 years was just icing on the cake. The fact we didn't see that drop off during the Q1, but yes, we're overly saturated in the market. Freight is a little bit slow. We're seeing some of that seasonality. There's obviously some concerns and a little decline in consumer confidence in the market. So we're not buying as much right now, right? So that's leading to a little bit of the decline. But I think that the drivers are probably going to have, unfortunately, the market is going to correct itself. And
so how many of these guys that went out and they funded their own deal? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to lose. They're going to lose probably 50% or better of those guys, don't you think?
I think so. Yeah, and a lot of the analysts are saying the same thing, and a lot of the market indicators are basically that's the only way this thing's going to correct itself. Is fortunately with Decker we have a really strong framework. We've got a great foundation. We've got years and years of solid company behind us. We don't have any concerns there. But it's those guys that are those new startups that went out and just bought their own equipment. Unfortunately, I think the fallout we're going to see from that is guys are going to lose their trucks. They're going to go under, and survival of the fittest kind of thing, which is terrible. But it's going to be a little bit cannibalistic to that extent, where the rates are going to continue to see downward pressure, and it's going to drive those guys out of the market, which will then stabilize it for the rest of those that can survive.
Oh, I agree 100% because, times have changed. It is so easy now. When I wanted to buy my first truck in 1980, No, 1991. Banks didn't just borrow money to anybody. There wasn't a corner lot with 100 Peterbilts sitting on it that would just, go ahead and do this. You want to get your own authority and all that. You had to work for that. Nowadays, it's 3 flips on a button on a computer, and you've got everything you need and you're in business. And they made it too easy, I think.
Agreed.
And that's what saturated this market.
Agreed.
And I think there's quite a few of these guys that need to get off of the road that shouldn't be out on the road.
Yeah, and especially in that capacity, right? Because you got folks that just strictly went into it with the idea of let's just chase the money, but didn't really have a good grasp on what it takes to be a true owner-operator, true independent businessman. And that in itself will correct itself because, again, if you're not running your books correctly, if you're not managing the financial side of that correctly, you'll go under pretty quick. So yes, you pair that up with guys that are struggling and fighting for freight as downward pressure continues to push on these rates, it's going to correct itself.
Well, and in the boom, us drivers, I'll raise my hand. I made out like a bandit. Right. I'm not kidding. That's why I'm back on the road.
Sure.
But the rates were high. And you look at the raises that Decker gave during those boom times of that 2 years, I never thought I'd see raises like that. I mean, we did, I think, 2 raises within a 3-year span or something like that.
Yep.
And where we're at now, I mean, we got to be, and I don't want to say, but we got to be going, damn, because I mean, we're going to pay the drivers and thank you, keep making my paycheck. but I mean, it's got to be getting a little tighter.
It is definitely getting tighter. Yeah. I mean, and any good business is going to look at how they're doing financially, right? Decker's a stable company. We're a strong company. I don't think there's any concerns about us making payroll or anything to that effect. But absolutely, we did give some pretty sizable increases during that period, and well deserved, really. Not to say that we were real far behind the mark, but again, to try to keep up with competition, and we had the ability to do it. It was why not pull the trigger? But yeah, as it continues to tighten up, we're going to look at our practices, and we're going to make sure that we're tightening down where we can to make sure that we ride this thing out, because it's going to be bumpy for everybody. There's no misconceptions there, right? We're not. This thing is still in free fall, and we haven't necessarily hit the bottom of it yet. So we're going to hold on tight, and we're going to rebound. So that's what I've told my fleet managers is, if we're in free fall, we have the strength of the company behind us that once it does hit, if we're doing things right and we're doing everything correctly, we're tightening down what we're doing, we're holding our drivers and ourselves accountable to what we expect and the level of service that Decker is known for. When it does hit, we're going to bounce right back up. It's those carriers and it's those other drivers out there that are new to this program that when it hits, they're just not going to rebound.
And they'll be gone, and then the freight's going to have to come to a reputable company, somebody who's been in business like us and has the financial capabilities that we have in order to back that.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not in the expertise that you are, but I'd say we're probably in for at least another 6 months to a year ride of this market, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think the earliest indicators are showing maybe end of Q3 that this might start to turn around. Again, the seasonality is going to shake a little bit off. We might see a slight uptick.
As soon as the holidays and the picnics start happening, everybody wants to barbecue and grill.
That's
and everything
exactly
like
it,
that.
right? Breads and people are going to be hamburgers and hot dogs, and that thing's going to be shipping more, and ice cream's going to be picking up as the weather starts to turn. You'll see that start to take up a little bit, but it's not going to return to what we would consider normal levels. The earliest indications that folks are saying that where we might even start to pull out of this thing is end of Q3. My gut is that we're probably into this thing a little bit longer than that. So the flip side of that is that you've got an election year coming next year. So again,
let's have the ride.
Right. Well, I mean, and again, you've been around it long enough that even if we start to pull up out of this thing by Q3, Q4 comes in, you get through Christmas, you go into Q1 again, you get that seasonality, it starts to dip. Then the next 6 months leading up to it is election cycle. Consumer confidence starts to drop back down. People hold their breath. They want to see which way it's going to fall, which side of the aisle it's going to end up getting the seat. And so I think that we're in for a little bit of a turbulent 6 to 18 months.
Well, we'll ride her out. We have Decker's been here since 1931. So, God, what is it? That's 70. That's 90. 92 years.
92 years.
92 years.
Yep.
See, I can do math. I didn't graduate when I was 15, but hey, anyway, I could figure it out in my head. So Decker drivers.
Yes.
What are we looking for? What do we want? What do we expect?
What do we expect? We expect drivers that are driven to be the best. I mean, right? To use the cliche and to use the catchphrase there, but We want drivers that represent the best of Decker. We want drivers that have a respect for themselves, respect for the industry, respect for their equipment, and appreciate the opportunities that this industry provides. Service is key. Communication is key. We want guys and gals that know how to do those things and put pride in the work, because I know here at Decker, it is again, family-owned, family-oriented company. We want to treat all of our people with respect and that kind of pride in our work, and we want that from our drivers as well. You step into one of those red trucks with a Decker emblem on the side. We want you to feel empowered to help make a difference out there and to feel proud of that equipment that we're driving down the road in.
Are we looking to diversify our customer base a little bit, do you think? Or?
We are. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I mean, it's good to keep the connections and keep the commitments we have out there. I mean, we've got some really deep-seated commitments. I mean, Tyson's a huge customer of ours, but that's not to say that we want all of our eggs in that basket. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at opportunities out there where if things start to tighten up, we can try to find more opportunities to keep our drivers moving, keep the wheels turning, keep making some money.
So driver-friendly freight.
Yeah.
Reefer used to be not driver-friendly freight.
Sure.
But I'm amazed. I got off the road for 17 years, and then I've come back out now a year and a half full-time. Mm-hmm. They have changed so much and made it reefer is not driver-unfriendly anymore.
Not as much.
You don't deal with lumpers, really. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of drop and hook. It's the time sensitivity can be an issue sometimes in meat packing plants, waiting and stuff like that. But that's just par for the course. Yep. But I wouldn't call reefer driver unfriendly anymore, where it used to be. What do you the stigma? What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, it's a different animal in itself, but it's definitely not driver unfriendly. When we're looking at pricing and we're looking at new lanes and new opportunities to diversify our network a little bit, that's one thing that we are looking for, and we're aggressive when it comes to those things. That if we see this lane as a drop and hook option, we're going to price that a little bit more, generously. To that end, in order to try to secure that business, because we are looking for those opportunities of let's get the driver in, get them out, drop that load, so they're not having to sit and wait 4 or 5 hours to get unloaded. We are looking for those chances, and we're seeing a lot more of that pop up as things go. The customers understand that time is money as well, and if we can establish a trailer pool and drop some equipment in there and get that turned, they get to unload it at their leisure. They're not worried about strict dock hours and unload appointments and having to reschedule everything, and you can just get it in and they get it unloaded when the equipment comes. That works out best for everybody.
Yeah, everybody's a winner when it comes to that. In fact, not yesterday, the day before, I went to a brand spanking new freezer warehouse out in Indianapolis, north of Lebanon. Right. Pull up to the gate. There's nobody there. Just had a guard arm down. They said, punch in your pickup number. I punched in my pickup number, said, okay, what's your trailer number? Punched in my trailer number. Said, okay, go park in this lot. When we have your load ready, we'll tell you where to go. That's it. And then it called me and said, back into this door. Didn't have to open the doors because there's a new one where they open them inside. Signed my bills and left.
That's cool.
That's technology is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
Drivers' success. Mm-hmm. What do you think makes a successful driver?
Successful driver is really just the consummate professional, right? The driver that has a goal in mind, that understands that safety can't be compromised, that is willing to keep a singular focus on getting from point A to point B on time, safely, and communicating effectively. Our most successful drivers have that mentality, have that mindset is, I'm out here to do a job. I'm not out here to sightsee. I'm not out here to be touring the country. If I see something cool along the way, great. But I'm out here to do a job. And they focus on the task at hand. They are making sure they're doing their pre-trip, post-trip inspections, making sure their equipment's safe, that they're keeping themselves, the company protected, as well as the motoring public out there, and trying to get that freight picked up and delivered on time.
What makes a successful dispatcher?
Successful dispatcher is the ability to wear multiple hats and listen. I think being able to be an effective listener really makes a good dispatcher. Drivers want to be heard. They're out there and they're in the truck alone most of the time, and there's a lot of frustrations that come from that. And the drivers, unless you've been out there and have done it, they do not get a fair shake, and some of the conditions and situations that they're put in are extremely difficult. So having another voice on the other end of the line that can listen to those frustrations and help address those concerns and ultimately help solve some of those problems, I think is huge, which again just kind of goes back to really effective communicating, being able to relate to people and have that open dialogue.
So I remember years ago, Don gave us, he was talking to us about something. He called it the three-legged stool.
Yep.
You know what the three-legged stool is, right?
Yep.
So we have, if I remember right, it's customer service, load planners, and dispatch.
Yep.
That's the three-legged stool. And if one of them's broke, the chair falls over.
1,000%.
So explain to us, what is the difference between a load planner and a customer service?
Well, I think that's one misconception, and it's one of those things that I always encourage. I think it'd be great if we could have our drivers come through operations and spend.
Well, don't we do that now
We
a
do.
little bit with orientation? Okay, yeah, I'm glad we do.
Yes, yeah, and especially in Missoula, we encourage them as they're coming through, because they'll come through during orientation and whatnot and get a chance to sit out on the floor and see it. But we'll bring them out there and let them sit down with the fleet managers and communicate with the fleet managers. We'll show them the load planning boards and what we're looking at. But to the question at hand, so a customer service rep is really responsible for managing the appointment side of things, the day-to-day, right? They're communicating with the customer, they're scheduling pickup, they're scheduling delivery appointments, they're getting confirmations, they're updating all of those things. Your load planner is more so the person behind the scenes that is making sure this is a one-for-one. We got 20 trucks in the area and we got 20 loads. Let's try to match these 20 trucks up to these 20 loads based on the driver's preferences, driver's hours of service, where they need to go, if they've got any special requirements, any areas they can't go to preferential wise. So that part is probably the hardest part of the puzzle there, is just making all those pieces fit. And then you have an account manager. So there's a third piece that goes into that customer service role. And that person is responsible for communicating with the customer. They're accepting freight, all EDI communication and traffic that comes through. They're communicating with customers in terms of trying to solicit more volume, tell them what we can and can't accept, maintaining that customer commitment level, making sure that we're hauling the amount of freight that we're committed to on a weekly and monthly basis, and balancing that with that load planner based on inbound and outbound volume of truck availability.
So we're contracted to haul so many loads for Tyson
Correct.
or JBS or whoever it is.
Yep.
With the freight market the way it is, are they meeting those goals?
They are, but so that's probably with a big but, right? As they meet those goals, they're meeting them by adding some additional stops to that. So as freight's tightening up, what we would typically see as a one pick one drop is now become a one pick 2 to 3 drop, right? So they're still giving us the same level of volume, but there just may be more stops on it in order to consolidate and fill that out. So they, as well as everything else tightens up, they're being more concise in what they're doing. So we are seeing a little bit of an uptick in multi-drop shipments just because of that. So we're going to still see that volume, but it may have a couple more stops on it.
Okay. And that makes it, they're trying to make their business more financially.
Yeah, it's viable at that point, right? Because they're not going to run a truck down the road from point A to point B with only 50% of the truck
They
filled out.
used to do that when times were, I remember, I don't think you were here, but there was a Christmas one time where we had 10 or 15 trucks that Tyson couldn't get enough trucks, and they paid us to bounce the trucks as soon as they got empty, just bounce them all the way back to Kansas or wherever it was, and then they would take another load out.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a different time.
Different time. Well, and
yeah.
we saw that during, again, like the last 18 months, 24 months ago with COVID times. We would get paid from the customers just soliciting capacity. You tell us where your truck's at, however far out. We'll make sure that we get you taken care of with your deadhead, but just get us a truck and source us some capacity there. But yeah, right now, they're definitely being a little bit more conservative with what they will and won't do. And again, that's going to be, let's cube that trailer out. Let's fill it out as best we can and make sure that it's kind of packed to the doors.
Any advice on safety for drivers?
Safety for drivers. I don't know that there's enough time for that, because that, to me, that's paramount. Everything that we do revolves around the safety element, and nothing that we do is worth compromising our driver's safety or the safety of the motoring public. So my biggest advice for drivers is, when in doubt, stop. When in doubt, question pull over, talk to your fleet manager, get some advice, get some updates on what's going on. Service is key. We obviously want to make on-time delivery, but the customer's not going to get their product if it's laying on its side. So we want them to be safe. We want them to make sure that they're safe for the conditions that they're in. They're comfortable with the conditions that they're in, and that they're taking caution, so they're not injuring themselves or anybody else.
What do you see? Because like when you said you come in the morning, you look at, late loads, claims, things like that. When it comes to claims and issues, what is the biggest thing we see out there? Something that maybe drivers are overlooking that they could work on?
One thing that we see is just in seal integrity, making sure that the seal is intact, that the cargo is secure. We, especially right now, again, as the economy's tightening up, we're seeing an uptick in folks tampering with trailers and that kind of thing at truck stops and in some less favorable locations. So I think guys that have been on the road know those spots pretty well. But really, it's just making sure that the cargo is intact, that you got it locked up, that the seal's there. We see claims pop up for that quite a bit, where guys show up and either the original seal number doesn't match and they had to swap it off and didn't notify anybody for whatever reason, or it fell off, or whatever the case is. Maybe they were handed it, when they closed the doors and the driver was supposed to put it on, got in a hurry, running behind, kept it with his paperwork in the cab. So we see an uptick in that. The other thing is load securement. Just making sure that if we get the opportunity to get in the back of it, let's make sure that we got the load bars in there, keep it from sliding around. We see a decent amount of claims in terms of the cargo shifting a bit. And there's things that we can do from a safety standpoint, where even if you don't have the padlock, where if you're parking at a truck stop, try to park in a well-lit area. If you have the ability to back it up towards a fence or something to that effect, where you can't get in and open the doors and tamper with it, just being a little bit more strategic on how we place our trailers and try to prevent anybody from tampering is always a good idea.
Well, great advice. So what do you like to do for fun?
I've got two little...
We're just doing a 180 here.
Right. Fun, what is that? No, I've got two little girls, and they are my fun. I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and the bulk of my free time is spent with them. So they...
Let's see, 10 and 8, are we in soccer?
They are in
dance.
Yes, dance.
Gymnastics.
They're in gymnastics. They're in competitive cheerleading.
You better ask Don for a raise, because I know how much that costs.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah, they're getting ready to leave this week to go to Utah.
Jesus.
Yes. So we're on the competitive travel team.
Oh,
and so,
yes.
Yeah. So they're leaving with mom tomorrow, going down to Utah. So I'll see them Sunday or Monday when I get back in. But yeah, we travel all around, go to Vegas. They're talking about maybe going to Florida or Virginia this year for nationals, and so it's
at 10 and 8. I thought it was bad. My daughter, we went to Minnesota, Nebraska, and Illinois, but
oh, it's insane. And my oldest has been in it since she was 3. And my youngest has done gymnastics, dance, did cheerleading when she was a little kid, and then got back into it again this year. So that now they're both doing it. So there's double the cost, and
everything has got a different costume.
Yes.
And the material, there's no material there. How can they charge that much for nothing?
It's exactly it. It's one of those things where I just tell my wife, it's fine. Whatever. Go ahead, take care of it. You guys are happy. The kids are happy. I just don't want to know. Don't tell me how much it costs.
Exactly.
I don't want to know.
My wife never told me. She says, "You don't," and I said, "I don't want to know." She says, "No, we could have bought a really, really nice car for what I spent on."
Yes. And it's not just that. And with the cheerleading thing, it's the hair pieces, right? Mm-hmm. You got to have the hair pieces, and the makeup, and and they got to get tanned, and they got to look the part, and all of. It's a pricey venture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when she was just doing soccer, it wasn't so bad because there was a ball and some shin guards.
Yeah, shin guards and some cleats. You're good to go.
Yeah.
You're lucky if they don't grow out of them by the next year. But yeah, no, this is something completely different.
Yeah, I've got 6 grandkids now, 5 girls. And I'm keeping, and 2 of them are twins. So
wow.
my one son had a set of twin girls. My other son had a set of twin girls. Sure. And I said, "You have no idea what you're in for." I said, "You better start making a lot more money."
Right, and that's where we're at. Is my 10-year-old will be 11 in May. My 8-year-old will be 9 in
11
June.
going on 15.
That's 100%. Yes, yeah. I'm just like
Katie was that way. I bet. Yeah.
Pump the brakes. Just stop. I'm like, just be me 10, just for a little while longer, please. Yeah, she's 100% thinking she's a teenager and trying to go down that path. Like, just be a kid. Don't grow up too quick. I promise you'll get there. Please, just go outside and play.
So, being born and raised in Montana, are you outdoors, man? Are you a fisherman? Like Jason's going in remission right now if he don't get out and go fishing here pretty soon and get his boat.
Well, see, I wasn't born and raised in Montana.
Oh, okay.
So I was born in California.
Oh, so me too.
Really? What part?
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I was born in the Bay Area, up Santa Clara, just outside San Jose.
Okay.
So I lived there till I was about 8, and then transplanted out here to Montana. And so, but yeah, for outdoors, I never really got into like recreational hunting or anything to that effect. But I do love going out and fly fishing. That's a ton of fun. Hiking, being out in nature, enjoy that quite a bit. If you haven't been out to Missoula and hiked the M, highly recommend it. Beautiful views.
I don't do a lot of hiking. Yeah,
there's switchbacks and there's some benches and stuff there. You take your time, you make your way up. It's nice.
I'm actually coming out there this summer.
Are you?
I'm riding my motorcycle out. I'm taking I have no plans. I've got a trailer with a tent.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get on my motorcycle and I'm going to end up in Glacier and I'm going to stop in Missoula because Jason's going to take me damn fishing.
There you go.
And I'm going to go down to Idaho and Wyoming and I want to go south of I've been to Yellowstone. I want to ride to
the
Tetons and that way I'm going to ride my motorcycle. And I have no hotel plans, no nothing. I'm going to tent it wherever I stop.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. I'm somewhat envious of that because that is such a gorgeous ride, especially going down through the Tetons there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Glacier's fun. If anybody's never been out to Glacier, it's great.
I want to ride that road to the sun, and then there's that lake up there I want to see.
Like Lake McDonald or one up there? Mm-hmm. Yep. Make sure that you go out there early enough where they start to shut that going to the sun road down by.
Well, I'm hoping the end of July. I'm thinking towards the end of July should be, because it's iffy.
There. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, again, they get so much damn snow up there that you think that we're still in our hot season, and they start closing it down because it starts to come down a little early up there.
Well, a couple of years ago, I went to rode at Red Lodge. Mm-hmm. I rode Beartooth.
Okay.
And when at the bottom of the hill, there was a group of us. We're on a motorcycle. It was 75 degrees. When we got to the top, we were getting snowed on. When we got to the top of it, so we had to layer up as we went up. So
right.
But no, I plan on. I've never been out. I've been there in the truck, but I've never been out in Montana. So I told Shu, you're taking me fishing. So yeah.
Well, and so he's definitely an avid fisherman in that regard. So he knows a lot of good spots. So he'll hook you up.
All right. Any last words of advice before we get back to work?
Words of advice? No. I mean, it's just a deep appreciation for Decker, deep appreciation for our drivers for the job that they do. Again, without them, we don't have a job to come to. So truly appreciate the opportunity, appreciate the company, appreciate our drivers and all the hard work they put into it.
All right. Thanks for your time, Steve. And remember, keep the shiny side up.
All right. Thanks.
As always, thank you for listening to Inside the Triangle. Don't forget to subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening on. That way you will know when the new episodes drop. And remember, submit your questions to podcast@deckermail.com and you could be featured on one of our upcoming episodes. The best way to do this is to create a voice memo on your smartphone, record your question, and email it to podcast@deckermail.com. Once again, thank you for listening. Stay driven to be the best.